All the entrepreneurs always talk about, hey, success. And oh yeah, we had a couple of hard days, but success.
Entrepreneurs are, how can I say, optimists. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you have any doubts, you're not going to pick this path. There's a lot easier ways to make a living.
Yeah. How do we actually grow that from enthusiasm to a culture of not just enthusiasm, but what else has to happen in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's how do you scale the business when you can move so quickly when you're young. You can change directions, change processes. You can basically invent
processes. What are processes?
Exactly.
When you're young, you don't even know what they are, right?
But you've got, like, at the time we had some certain types of training that we were doing, and so we could mold that or change it almost daily in terms of what we were observing. As you grow, that's not as possible to do that.
The experimental culture is a lot easier with a couple of guys who are interested in experiments.
That's right. So I kind of grew into a situation that was suboptimal from a culture perspective. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think I handled that very well. It showed in many ways in my enthusiasm for the business itself, and I could feel myself not engaged with it in the same way. And so as a result, that kind of led to, revenue growth. I think we had like 40 programmers at one time, 40, 50, that were all over the country doing things, but it wasn't something I got up every day and was enthusiastic like we were in the early years. And that, I think growing the culture as you grow the company and maintaining that is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having a single focus, whatever that is, and being great at that. And I found that the more I took away things the more I could focus, the more successful that we were. And when that focus split, I felt like that's when things started a downhill at that point in time.
Yeah, and I think that's really, as I started trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and when I started RoleModel, I look back at those times and say, you know what? Whether we ever make $100 million or whatever, what I really want to have is a healthy culture. But I remember Kent saying, look, if you're going to start your own company or you're going to start your own thing, you gotta have 4 metrics, and only one of them's allowed to be about money. And he says, now you got to figure out what those are. And I was like, okay. And I was like thinking about it, and I think he may have mentioned something about the number of nights he sleeps in his own pillow or something. And I was like, I'm going to make that metric. What is that? I talked to my wife a bit and just said, what do you think? What do you think the maximum travel where we could still be healthy? And I think we came up with 12 days in a quarter. From 12 days in a quarter, I'm away. That's it. So I said, okay, that's metric number 1. I'm not going to take on work that I've got to do that.
Right.
And I'm not going to ask anybody else to do the same. And I saw what, you were suffering through it. You were the one asking people to do that, or the people you hired were asking them to do it. Right. And I saw that, and I was like, that's just, and there was times where I was traveling way more than that. And so, what, we had some trips when I first came there, and they were a blast. We'd go to California, hang out with the guys at HP, or whatever else. But it was, a few days at a time.
And we'd be coming back.
And we'd come back for a few weeks.
Right.
And so, I was thinking about that. It's like, it's not that I don't ever want to travel. It's that I don't want to put too much strain on my family and our relationship. So that was one of them, and as I started thinking about those metrics, and it was like, what else? What kind of work do I want to do? And I said, I always loved working with the entrepreneurs. Like you said, people who like, I know I have this expertise, but I need some software. Right. And that was, I never knew how to like get that into a nice firm metric. But it was like, okay, that's the kind of work I want to do. And in fact, I even examined, like, what was I good at? It's like, I'm really good at like rescuing people who have crappy code. Mm-hmm. And I'm really good at it. I don't have as much fun doing that as I do when I'm working with these entrepreneurs. Right. So I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do that. Right. And I just really had to think about what kind of work, and what kind of environment, that travel. And then, again, that other metric was just more of, having a healthy balance.
Yes.
And how to measure that I found over the years, that's changed, right? When I have a 4-year-old at home versus when I have, now I'm almost an empty nester. All entrepreneurs talk about, hey, here's all the ways we made it through the hard times and it was successful. We did a smart thing when we were struggling and voila, here it worked. And it doesn't always work that way, does it?
No, it rarely works that way. I mean, you have kind of a general direction you feel like you want to go, but for me anyway, refining that to some level of precision was more difficult. And also I was struggling with my own capabilities. And so I felt like I needed some people around me to shore up the places where I felt like that I was weak, or at least have them give me feedback about where they saw that I needed to be different for the organization, and then to figure out, number one, could I actually do that? Should I fake it, or should I try to actually do it, or not? And so having people that would be honest, I guess, really honest with you as to the entrepreneur, as who you are, what skill sets should you amplify, and what others maybe you should delegate or have somebody else in the organization do that. And then challenging your assumptions, because you come into the business with a certain set of assumptions. Having someone challenge those assumptions, instead of just playing it in your head every night that okay, this is how I see the business, but being able to have an outside person or two that can challenge those assumptions can help you clarify. It's either, if you can go to them and say, this is what I see, how we're going to get there, and they believe you, all of a sudden that gives you confidence to go out and implement. Right. So just having some outside people, I found it very, very helpful, because they challenged me in that process. Now, it did change the company in some ways, as I was trying to grow with the company was growing pretty quickly, and my leadership skills were not growing at the same rate. And so it was, how do I either get coaching to help me grow, or how do I find a person to come in and fill that role that the company really needs?
In our next segment, let's talk about handing over the reins. I think both of us have had experiences in different ways, recognizing where we were in life, what our skills were, and let's talk about that in our next segment.